There it is. All right, welcome back to Grit Gym. We're going to get everything going here. Here, open that guy up. We're going to get everything going here. Today we're talking about the difference between general means and the specific means. This is kind of like an extreme, it's an extreme concept in strength and conditioning that is really important that a lot of people miss out on, especially when they're talking about strength and conditioning and how it applies to different populations and demographics. So if we're just talking about a football demographic that is just playing football, we're going to train a little different than we would with a baseball demographic, as we would with a 60-year-old female, as we would with a 19-year-old male that is trying to be a power lifter or a bodybuilder. Didn't write that one up there. But we're going to go through and we're going to label out some of these things, some of the differences that you might see between them, and really some of it's common sense, but common sense is not so common, especially in terms of this. And I don't know how far sometimes I hear that from people who are like super high level experts. They're like, it's really just common sense. Just do this, and it's like, I don't have a clue what they're talking about. So we're going to try to label it down and explain it as best we can. But what's general means? Before we get going, definitely slap that share button. Send this out to everybody you know. And we can't actually see the comments in the video, but I'll periodically check back and see if you guys have asked any questions. But please ask questions as it's going along. Otherwise, we don't know if we're being clear or not. But anyway, please share, like, comments, and we'll jump into it. But what's specific versus general means to you?
And so I think even before that, the whole thing with this really is the idea of trying to get the most training transfer out of our training to get better at whatever we're doing. And like the big question is, how is our time best spent to do that? And so this is kind of a way to categorize like exercise, like say you're a basketball player or a football player or whatever your sport is. It's like, where should I spend my time? Would I be better off spending my time on the court, on the field, or in the weight room? And essentially it's a combination of both, but this is kind of a system we can use to categorize these exercises and kind of get a better idea of where our time is spent.
Yeah,
so.
I think football is actually a pretty good example because like it's not like if you took track or you took powerlifting, you took strongman, it's very like the training is the sport, the sport is the training. So it's like, I don't know. And Olympic lifting, I think, has taken the brunt of the glory in the last 10 years. But really, it's not quite done.
Right. Yeah. Some sports are simpler to program for than others, for sure. So like a power lifter, that's a lot simpler than figuring out what a football player needs. Like a football player needs a lot of different things, be trained in a lot of different energy systems.
Yeah, like when I was in college, our football strength coach, I was in his strength and conditioning class that he taught, and his whole thing was he thought that the clean and the snatch made the best football players. So all of our lifting was geared towards building the clean and the snatch.
Without taking it.
I see, like you already see the error in there, don't you?
Right.
Yeah, like it's if we're training for football in the general means, then why would we be trying to drive up our clean and our snatch?
Right.
What would we do? You'll see what we will do as we go along here. But anyway.
Yeah. So overall, general exercises are ones that are kind of usually what you see going on in a weight room at your typical gym, like barbell movements, bench, squat, deadlift, the Olympic lifts, and things with dumbbells, etc. They can be, it could be compound movements, it could be isolation, but they're just general things, not necessarily geared towards one thing, but just getting stronger and more robust overall. Special exercises
like that
have a direct transfer to improved performance because they are most similar to the activity or the event trying to be improved. So obviously a hill sprint is going to have a lot of transfer to sprinting. More so than...
So what's written up here is general means, and what's written down here is specific means. There's special exercises versus general exercises.
Oh, this should actually say specific.
That's okay. They're very special. But so this general would be training for the thing, and this most specific that you can possibly get is actually doing the thing. So in football, you'd be playing the sport, right? Like practice would be fairly specific, but wouldn't be as specific as playing the game. And running sprints would be very specific, but not as specific as running plays. And doing squats would not be specific at all. It would be very general, because you never go out onto a football field and squat. You don't.
Yeah, exactly. And furthermore, we can break these down into this system where like general to the competitive event itself and kind of in between. So I kind of think of this as like bridging the gap, and kind of getting more specific as you go. So
I don't know if they'll be able to read this. So
okay, yeah. So I'll go through and give a quick overview, and then you can give some examples of starting over here, general preparatory exercises. These are exercises that use different energy systems and movement than the competition event. So say for instance, I'm just going to give one example as I go so people can kind of get it, and then we'll go through several. But so say for instance we're talking about a fighter, right? They something like jogging would go here. They need to develop their anaerobic capacity, but jogging itself is not anything like the fight. And then special preparatory exercises use the same muscles and systems but different movements. So this could be something like a standing cable press on a machine. So you're using your trunk musculature, you're in a standing position, you're pressing that cable, but it's still a lot more, it's not as dynamic as throwing a punch. You're not really turning your hip into it. You're stationary pressing. So that would be, for a fighter, that could be a special preparatory exercise. Then we get into special developmental exercises. So these are exercises that use the same systems, muscles, and parts of the competition movement. So say here maybe you're doing some pad work on the pads, and you have a specific kind of combination of movements you're going through.
So here you're actually throwing punches?
Right, you're actually throwing punches or kicks, but it's not the competition event itself. You know what you're going to be doing, and you have a sequence of movements that you're running through and practicing. And then here we have the competitive exercises, and these are the competitive event itself. So this would, for the fighter, this would be the actual fight, right? Unpredictable. You don't know exactly how long it's going, but all these things together allow that fighter to progress up to that to the demands of the sport. We're just going to take a quick break here, guys. Someone just walked in. No, I didn't know if it looked like you were talking to that guy for a second, so I was going to pause it.
I was, but it's fine. I'm back. How's it going?
All right, so we got through this whole list here with our example as a fighter. Do you want to jump in and give another?
Where are we?
So,
okay,
so we covered what these are.
This is specific
examples for fighting.
You want to go through like other sports?
Sure, yeah.
Where do you want to stick on the fighter?
I
you want to fight?
Yeah.
I don't want to. So, I would hate to fight you. Like I just have to wrestle. And I don't have anything else. Okay, so if we want to take like an Olympic lifter, for instance.
Sure. Yeah.
So Olympic lifting, really popularized through CrossFit. You know, Olympic lifting's fine. The error in where the strength and conditioning community is right now, or I hate calling it community. I don't hate it, but it's not accurate. It's not a community, but. Is they're using Olympic lifting for a general means, and it's not. It's a sport. Olympic lifting is a sport. It's Olympic lifting is down here. Doing a clean, a snatch, or a jerk is down here. Doing developmental exercises to get to there, you know, like somewhere in here would be your deadlifts, right?
Right.
Somewhere in here, your squats would probably be clear down here.
Yeah.
Your single leg RDLs would be clear down here. But actually doing the sport would be down here. Now, the thing is with how Olympic lifting has been applied to the general population, just everyday people wanting to be in shape and lose fat, feel better, they use a specific means for a general prep exercise. That's where things get all effed up. So you don't want to do that with Olympic lifting, but what are some of your perspectives on Olympic lifting? Or an Olympic lifter. I went through and labeled the errors. Maybe I should have started out with an actual Olympic lifter.
as you said, like, so Olympic lifting is one of those cases where a lot of times the movements, they're really living in this competitive arena. Like they do things just like powerlifting too. You're always doing those competition events, whereas like a special developmental exercise for an Olympic lifter could be shortening that. Like instead of lifting from the floor, they could be lifting off blocks. So
yeah, I actually labeled that wrong. So like for an Olympic lifter, practicing the Olympic lift would be in here,
right,
and actually doing the competition would be down here. So if you had 5 sets of 3 cleans, that would be here, but you would never do 5 sets of 3 cleans in a competition, right? You just do 1 rep. So this is where you'd practice the work.
And so like the question is, like, getting back to like, where's your time best spent? They like all of these have their place. General preparatory exercises for a lot of this stuff is just having like an aerobic base. Like, so that's going to help work capacity. It's going to help how much work you can get done without fatiguing out. It's going to help your recovery.
Right. So over here, you definitely want to have that 1 time a week, 30 to 45 minutes of aerobic activity. We're very much think that if your aerobic activity should come from something that you enjoy doing.
Yeah.
You don't have to sit there and
even
pound
if it has nothing to do with what you want to improve. It's still going to be good. Like, it's just having a well-built aerobic system is going to be really beneficial to you no matter what you do, because
exactly.
Like I said, recovery, work capacity, etc. Like
autonomic nervous system, sleep, hormone regulation, endocrine system, like almost everything is going to be benefited by having that aerobic base. But with that said, you don't need what the world has been trying to push on you, that you need to do 5 miles of jogging a day. That's ridiculous. You need to do that once a week. But anyway, what else would be in the preparatory general prep phase for, I don't know, which one were we on? Were we still on Olympic lifters?
Why don't we go to like a general population, right? Because that's what we're dealing with. And they might not have, like, competitive events here. You could think that this is just their activities of daily lifting, like of daily living. Yeah. Like this is
taking your kid on in a game of basketball.
Right.
This is chasing down your 3-year-old. This is picking your kids up and taking them to bed off the floor where they fell asleep. You know, this is like that kind of stuff.
So we're kind of just,
or grandkids.
So for them, it's like we don't have one thing to specialize in, because life itself, like, it's just an unpredictable. It's just everything you do, and so we're gonna spend a lot of times like here, like doing like we're gonna train all the energy systems to some extent. We want to get strong, but we don't want to put all our time there. Like, we want to have a nice balance of everything, because that's what life is, you know.
And so here you might have like your medicine ball stuff. Maybe some plyometrics, but mostly like med ball stuff would probably be about right here, somewhere in the middle there, I guess. This might be kind of like you're pushing the sled, pulling the sled, moving the sled in different directions. This might be basically you're just going to live right here. If you're general population, you're lifting for life, you're lifting for fat loss, you're lifting for health. You're going to do your squats, your deadlifts, your bench, your dumbbells, your single leg RDLs, your single leg squats, your core work, everything that's going to be done here.
Right, and then another note on this. So like sometimes like athletes in the same sport might need slightly different ratios of general versus specific. For instance,
at different points of the year.
Right, and at different points of the year. Yeah. And so, like, say you have 2 football players, and one is like really skinny, but he's really good on the field. But like, if he would just get a little stronger and a little heavier, he could move faster, hit harder, etc. But his field stuff's all really good. Whereas you have another person who's really well built, but they're on the field, they're a little sloppy, right? So like that person who's skinny could get a little more out of general exercises, adding muscle mass. Like, that's a big benefit of these general exercises, that you can build the intensity up, like we were talking about a week or 2 ago, of that 60 to 85% intensity range, where that muscle hypertrophy is really occurring, and that is going to be a big benefit of these general exercises. You're not going to be while you're practicing your plays of football, you're not going to be adding a whole bunch of muscle mass on.
You might be getting more athletic down here, but you're not getting bigger.
So exactly. So like, this is like fine-tuning your skills. This is like getting bigger, faster, stronger.
Yeah.
So like, and
That's
then,
old school right there.
yeah.
That's old school.
And then
program.
so you have the guy who's really well built. He might not need quite as much time down here. Like say he's already squatting like double his body weight. Does he really need to add too much more to his squat?
Right.
Like probably not. Like study like as that squat goes up, there's a point where you get diminishing returns. Same with this on the other side of that. And so you kind of just got to fine tune it to the athlete and their needs as well.
Yeah, yeah. And then, so what about like cross country? Where are we going to fit that in here?
Okay, so cross country. So we got the competitive exercise here is a bunch of running.
Yeah,
so
this would be a bunch. This would be actually doing their sport. Which like most cross country courses, I think are like 3 to 5 miles or something like that. I don't remember.
yeah,
Anyway,
I don't know much about cross country.
But just generally training for it, like,
Yeah.
you know quite a bit. So, so like when we get into this is going to be like their sprint work. A lot of people don't think that cross-country runners need sprint work. It's not about if they can finish the race, it's how fast they finish the race.
Right.
So this is going to be their sprint work. This is going to be their med ball work because we need that super fast explosion. The interesting, I don't know if you read Sports Gene, one of the really cool things in the past 10 years that we figured out is that those Kenyan runners that we're just like, we think are just the gods of running, basically, when you test out their everybody thought they were going to have these super slow twitch, like advanced slow twitch muscle fibers.
Yeah.
They're primarily fast twitch people.
Yeah.
Yeah. So so whether you're fast twitch or slow twitch, it completely settles the debate right there.
And
anyway,
then
this down here is going to be their squats, their
Right,
deads,
right.
their bench, and you're like, but cross country runners can't be getting bigger. People are trying to get bigger, like people who are genetically have a genetic predisposition to getting bigger are trying to get bigger and having trouble doing it. Think of the people who are actually good at running who are don't have that. So I have high doubts that you're going to gain a bunch of muscle mass from lifting when you're a cross country runner.
Right, but strength is still extremely important for that ground contact, like how fast they can run. Strength is extremely
because
important.
if you can increase your stride by 4 inches every stride, you just decrease the amount.
5 miles or whatever.
Yeah, it's a lot. You're gonna take a good cross country runner is going to take less than 1,500 strides per mile, like closer to 1,000. That's a lot of ground contact.
Yeah.
So if you can, that's a lot of strides. So if you can increase your stride length, you're going to run a faster time. You're going to use less energy. Strength. Anyway, what about swimming?
All right,
Swimming and triathlons, I think would kind of be in the same realm.
Right. And so, yeah, swimming, right, yeah, exactly. I mean, I guess like a distance swimmer would be a lot more like the endurance or the cross-country runner you just talked about, whereas sprinting, like if you're doing a 50-yard, that's going to look a lot more like a sprinter.
Right. Yeah, and what about like a track athlete that's doing the sprint? Because like that's where you get into where it's like messy. Because track athlete, the training is the sport is the training.
Right. So competitive, say you're running, what's like a short
100
track,
meter,
100
meter.
meter. And here would be maybe something like a hill sprint. So it's using that same energy system, muscles and parts of it, but it's not quite the same.
What would your rest period look like here?
Rest period?
Yeah.
I mean, let's see. It'd probably be pretty long.
Yeah, I know. Usain Bolt he'll take like an hour.
Yeah.
That's serious.
That's really long.
Yeah. But like pretty common to go 20 minutes between each set. Mm-hmm. When you're talking there for a track athlete,
right?
You want to
be your nervous system to get be as fresh as possible between each one. And then here would be stuff like your weight room resistance training. More of this conventional strength training, and then here would be, this is more of your aerobic fitness, your slower, steady pace.
Yeah, and you could even put your really heavy stuff in here, like your heavy deadlifts, heavy squats, and you could do your more explosive lifts here, like you're jumping with the trap bar or throwing medicine balls, that kind of stuff.
For sure.
And then like softball, baseball, volleyball, basketball, football. I think you can basically like, from a conceptual standpoint, not from a specific standpoint, conceptually they're all going to train the same way.
Right.
Yeah. But if that makes any sense. What do we got? All right, so we're about up on time. Let's look over and see if I don't know if we have any questions or not. How much time for taper of specific muscle work before event? So if you're tapering, usually you're talking about weeks out, not necessarily at the like. There's two different ways to go there. Are you like, if you're asking for after your warm up, how much time do you want to have before you actually begin your race, or how far back do you have to start tapering down? And I think that kind of depends on the person, training age, actual age. A lot of
factors.
I think there's so many factors in there that it's hard to say. But generally speaking, most people are considering their taper like a month out at least. And I think that's one of the big mistakes that a lot of sports teams make is they try to push it really hard all the way to the very bitter end, and then when they get to the end of their season, their bodies won't let them perform the way that they need to be able to perform.
Right. That fatigue is masking their fitness essentially. Like they haven't dissipated all that accumulated stress, and they can't perform like how they. Like on paper, it would have looked like they should be at that point.
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest mistakes that our football coaches did when I was in college was like we were still going full pads last week of the season. It's like why are we even putting pads on? Like I didn't think that then. I was like, yeah, let's go hard, let's hit. That's just dumb. Like halfway through the season, you should basically maybe have one day of wearing pads, and even then you should be running through full speed but not doing full contact.
Yeah.
You know, just because what's it going to help? Like if you can't figure out how to hit by now, you're done.
Yeah.
You might as well just not show up. It's just taking away from the performance that you'll have on Friday night or Saturday morning.
Right. And so I guess we can't really specifically answer that question because it depends. But in general, like if you look at that taper, like the idea of the taper is to get rid of a bunch of accumulated stress so that so that your fatigue doesn't mask your fitness. So it like going along with that, like if you're younger, if you're a really relaxed person and you're good at getting rid of stress anyway, if you're sleeping really well and eating well, that's all going to dissipate stress faster.
Yep.
So like an older person who's not sleeping well is going to need more time on a taper, right? Because they got like more stress and they're not getting rid of it as fast a rate. So we did a talk on that about stress adaptation and recovery, and that kind of just directly ties into that because that's all you're doing with the taper. As well as getting a little more specific, like while you're tapering, you're generally spending a little more time, like more competition prep. And
you had to think about which residual training effect, right? So we're going to hold on to our aerobic capacity for 30 to 45 days, basically. We're going to hold on to it for a really long time. So if you, on day 21 before your event, if you did no aerobic activity, you're going to show up with approximately the same amount that you had at that time. Whereas like if you go down to like your speed work, you're only
skills and
you're only going to hold on to that for like a maximum of 7 days. You're probably going to lose it somewhere between 3 and 5 days. So you need to be training that to a certain extent, but we wouldn't want the volume to be extremely high. We'd want to just get very much extreme towards that minimum effective dose.
Generally dropping your volume, making everything look more like the competition, without accumulating so much fatigue that it's going to hinder your performance when the competition comes.
Because you want to go in with everything that you possibly have, and you want to hope that all your competitors try to go hard right to the bitter end, because then you get to whomp them. But anyway, this is general versus specific. Specific exercises are actually doing the thing. General exercises are the things that you do in order to enhance the specific thing. So for the most part, this is your aerobic capacity, your squats, your deadlifts, your bench press. When you kind of bridge the gap between the two, you would have multi-vector type exercises like medicine balls, like a shot put, where we're not just working, a deadlift, you're just working here. A squat, you're just working here. Bench press, we're just working here. When we do a shot put, we're transferring weight and we're moving and moving in multiple directions. So that would be more somewhere in here. And if you're living life, if you're just training to live life, then this would just be going out and doing it.
Right.
Same thing if you're trying to be a football player, this would just be going out and playing football. Baseball, just going out and playing football or playing baseball. But you do these other things to enhance this. You don't try to make this be specific to the sport, which was a really popular thing to talk about in the strength and conditioning world, like for the last, I don't know, however many long, like 15, 10 years, where it's like, you should do single leg squats because you're never going to jump off of 2 legs in a sport. It's like, oh my God. Like you don't take general to specific, you don't take specific to general. It just, it doesn't work. But.
And you don't want to ever specialize someone in something that is not their competitive event, right? Like for a long time, all these football teams are basically making their guys into power. They're just concerned about their numbers on squat, bench, and deadlift, right? And you get obsessed with that, and then all of a sudden now they're power lifters. They're not football players.
Yeah.
You spent too much time.
They try to make them into power lifters, or they try to make them into Olympic lifters, and it's just like, no. You see this with like wrestlers and fighters. They try to make them into like endurance athletes. It's like, they're not endurance athletes. They're super explosive. That's just going to get them smoked. Yeah. Like I would love to train the Diaz brothers just because they just sit there and pound on endurance. And they don't do any strength work, basically. It's just like, it'd be awesome to train one of those guys. It'd be monsters. But anyway, you want to send us off? Is that a good end to that?
Yeah, that's a good end.
Well, we're done. See you later. That's how you'd like to do it, wouldn't you?
Yeah, that's how. Yeah.
All right, but thanks for being here, guys. We were trying to sneak back there and see some of the comments and stuff. You guys left some, which was great. Thank you for doing that. It makes this way more fun to do these when people ask questions. But anyway, this is general versus specific means. I hope you guys gotten something out of it. And please share the video. It's down to the right. I think you have to go through a couple steps. You have to click share, and then it asks you where you want to share it, and then you have to click that. Please share it publicly. It helps us out a lot. And anyway, appreciate you being here. Next Thursday.
All right.
All right. See you guys then. Got a close up of your face right now. Very pretty. Oh, if I can get to it.